a quorum, and the meeting conducted anyway, and then there were falsified minutes that were concocted that not only placed an individual in the meeting who wasn't there, but had her leading the meeting, and the minutes identified that there was business attended to, and the minutes contradicted the testimony to the full Sunshine Ordinance Task Force that was given in September of 2019, in which the respondents admitted that there was not a quorum. The current incident, however, is very straightforward. I plan to attend the January 27th meeting of the HSPAC because the Navy was giving a presentation on Parcel F that included biomonitoring of fish and clam tissue. Biomonitoring is screening for toxins. There is a biomonitoring program for women firefighters in the city who have cancer, and since 2019, I have launched the first human biomonitoring program at a federal Superfund site, and we've detected a host of radioactive and heavy metals in people with breast cancer and brain cancer, and I do believe that there's been an effort to try to suppress our findings by this committee, which is funded by the developer. But I did request the opportunity to show some slides, and you have the email thread. Initially, there was an approval, and then there was a decision that was made, I believe, by Ms. Benson. I thought it was made by Mr. Fobbs. But in which she said specifically that they would not allow me to present the biomonitoring information. So clearly this is a violation of my constitutional rights to freedom of speech. I'm also the editor, environmental health and science editor of the SF Bayview newspaper. It constitutes a violation of freedom of press, and it represents an open government violation if they are selectively allowing people to present, public comment that they accept, and they're trying to exclude people who don't want to hear from. So that is essentially, what has happened. I do think that there is some disagreement about whether or not you have jurisdiction over the matter of the quorum. There was a public comment statement that found that I did file a request for reconsideration of the matter in a timely manner, and it should have been acted upon.
Does that conclude your testimony? Dr. Sunshine, does that conclude your testimony?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Are there any persons or witnesses provide any fact or evidence on behalf of the petitioner, the complainant? Okay, hearing none, we'll now hear from the respondent, Ms. Benson. You have 5 minutes. Please wait for Ms. Leger when the clock. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Benson, are you ready?
Yeah.
You may begin.
Okay. So before, I'm not going to address any of the falsified documents or quorum issues. Those are all happened in 2019 and at previous Sunshine Ordinance meetings. We have concluded that matter. So I'm only going to talk about the issue of denial of public comment. The first board member who spoke, I didn't catch his name, about this and gave some background information was incorrect when he said that Dr. Hemsa, what her slides that she wanted to have during public comment were approved, and then once she sent us the information, it was disapproved because we decided we didn't want to hear that. That's not what happened. What happened was Dr. access to use our projector screen. As you all know, there is no need to make a request for public comment. She only did so because she wanted to use our office's equipment to present her slides. She submitted what she wanted to present. Once we looked at what she submitted, we granted her approval. After she was approved for those slides, she added information. There was a biomonitoring slide, and her business license. Dr. Himsa's business is in biomonitoring. We told her, and Micah sent her the email, not myself, but that doesn't matter. Our office had an internal conversation and said, it appears as if she is trying to use our equipment and our staff time to solicit business at this Navy meeting, and that she would not be able to do that. So we simply told her that she could present her original request, our original slide, and that the other slides could not be heard at this time, leaving it open for if she wanted to make another request or come back at a different time, she would be able to do so. Dr. Himsa, in turn, decided not to show up to a meeting. She would have a case, in our opinion, that we violated her civil rights or her First Amendment rights if she turned up to a meeting and attempted to make public comment and we somehow barred her, locked her out, told her she couldn't do it, or any of that. We actually told her she was still welcome to come to the meeting and present the original documents. We have a protocol that we follow, just like you all. We cannot allow for someone to come in and request to present information, agree to that information, and then add in additional information that we did not agree to. It should be in our rights to say, no, public comment on January 27th, we are a passive active body. We do not hear any policies or anything like that. And at that meeting, the chair allowed for public comment. Plenty of people came to that meeting and gave public comment. If Dr. Himsa would have decided to show up to the meeting, she could have used our projector for her additional slides, and then she could have came back and talked about biomonitoring. Evidence of this is that Dr. Himsa has talked about her biomonitoring kit during public comment at other CAC meetings. Not once has myself or any other staff person tried to silence her or has told her that she cannot talk about biomonitoring. We decided that because we felt, based off of the information she sent us, that she was trying to solicit business and that her biomonitoring program is her business. We should not be held, we should not be forced to allow anyone to use our staff time and our equipment to solicit business for themselves. But if she would have come under public comment, she could have done that. Dr. Himsa used to be a board member. She is well versed in our rules and regulations. She knows how to contact us. We have allowed her to present to the CAC several times. She comes up and she makes public comments all the time. She sits down. If the chair allows it, she'll make 3 and 4 public comments. We have never barred her. We have never said she cannot come to a meeting. We have never tried to silence her. In addition, her accusation is because there's information that she wants to share that we don't want to get out to the public because it is in direct opposition to what the Navy or the developer is saying. And that is simply not true. If that was true, we wouldn't have let her present in times past. And this community board listens to the members of our community. There have been plenty of times when there was a professor in Santa Cruz who said that he had information that was in direct opposition to what the Navy was saying. He contended that 1 in every 8 people living on the shipyard was going to get cancer. The community came to this board and said, we want to hear from them. We put them on agenda. They came out. So in conclusion, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any persons or witnesses providing facts or evidence on behalf of the respondent? Okay, seeing none, members, time for Q&A. And also, okay, before we start, I just also want to note, if you want to see the code that governs and created the Bayview Hunters Point Citizens Advisory Committee, is in the administrative code, and it is Chapter 5, Article 8. Okay, I've got Vice Chair Yankee, then Member Schmidt.
Yeah, and this question could be for either the complainant or the respondent, whoever might be able to help. but I didn't know if the slides that were rejected are somewhere in the information packet.
Yes,
This
it
is
should
Dr.
be. It was in the prior. It's her business license and the redacted biomonitoring report.
Do you have
Ms.
to know
Vincent
which?
is correct. The
I'm
business
sorry, you
license,
have to wait. I'm sorry, this is not a conversation. This is a question and answer that is directed. Please wait for a question to be asked of you. There'll be time for rebuttals at the end of the process. Thank you.
No, I'm sorry. He asked for either me or her to speak, and I think it was just a confusion of I spoke and then she was speaking. He didn't direct it at any particular one.
I understand, but it's also a directive to him to be specific as to who he wants the answer from. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll ask the respondent first. Do you know the page number of the rejected slide?
I don't have that in front of me. I don't. I can try to look it up, but if Dr. Hempson knows it, I'll let her answer.
Okay, Dr. Sumchai, do you know the page number in the attachments of the slides you wanted to present that were not allowed?
But I need to clarify that Ms. Vincent is incorrect. I did not submit my business license. I submitted a biomonitoring slide screening. Are you listening to me?
Yes, that's why I'm asking, so we could actually see. So if you could tell us the specific page number
The
of what.
original story was that they denied me because they had concerns about HIPAA privacy issues, and when I submitted to you the screening that had been cleansed of PHI, then they changed their story. The fact again is that the Hunters Point Community Biomonitoring Program is a 501c3 public benefit nonprofit. I am not paid, and it is invasive for them to suggest that
Ms. Sumchai, please, Dr. Sumchai, Dr. Sumchai, we're asking for very specific questions so we can get clarity. Okay, you provided us with a lot of documentation and some testimony. There's some questions that we want to ask. We'd like some answers. All Vice Chair Yankee is asking for is a page number, so he can see.
Page number, and I've submitted information repeatedly. At the last meeting, subcommittee meeting, I submitted to you a copy of the screening that I had submitted, as well as a copy from the Navy's document showing that the Navy was presenting biomonitoring information. That's why I added the biomonitoring slide, because I read the Navy's report. That was not my intent. My intent was not to be there to promote my business. And in January of 2019, the chair of the committee interrupted me when I was trying to present my information on biomonitoring. That is also not true.
Hi, I believe I have the page number. I think it's page 713. Let me check that out.
He's 713?
I believe so, yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, Member Schmidt.
Thank you. Got a couple of questions for Ms. Vincent. This is Member Schmidt. I was trying to listen real carefully, and I need a little bit of clarification in terms of two things. One is, you said that you were given a copy of the business license. Are you saying that one of the proposed slides was a slide of her business license?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So the original request was not that, and then she submitted that after we said yes.
Okay.
Along with the biomonitoring report.
Okay,
there may have been one other slide, but I don't. Yeah.
Okay. So you remember the business license slide and the biomonitoring report slide, and there's possibly a third slide, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, my other question, Ms. Vincent, is now, just to be very clear on this, when she was giving you these slides and asking to be able to put those slides forward in that hearing, was this about doing it during a public comment session, or was it about putting it on as another part of the hearing, which is separate from the public comment section of the hearing?
It was about the public comment section.
Okay,
She wanted to use our equipment. That was the only reason why she asked. So.
oh, okay, so she was sort of ahead of time. She was trying to be ready to put on her slides during the pre-scheduled public comment part of the hearing, correct?
I'm confused about what you mean by pre-scheduled. The only reason why she asked, so public comment is public comment. People come up, they talk about, things on the agenda or things not on the agenda, right? During those different sections. The only reason why she made the request is because she wanted to present slides, and she needed our equipment to do that. And so we said yes to the original slides so she could present that information. And so I don't know what you mean by pre-committee. I assumed if she would have showed up, we would have, at the chair's direction, either had her present her, had her first a public comment so she can do that, or work her some way in. But there was no pre-selection. Does that make sense? It was just public comment.
Yeah. And I know that when I ask you this, it's probably not necessarily clear how I'm asking it, but there's certain rights that the public has to present public comment, and for example, in the Sunshine Ordinance. But that's a very specific type of thing that happens at certain times during a public hearing. Now, it's unclear to me, not necessarily because you did anything that made it unclear to me, but I'm just trying to make sure that I've got this figured out. Was it during one of those required public comment parts of the meeting that she was asking ahead of time to be able to put her slides on? Or was she trying to be actually a presenter at the meeting during the sort of the main part of the meeting, as opposed to a public comment section of the meeting?
So I can't speak to the operation of her mind and what her intentions were. What I can say is it was during the public comment section on agenda related, on the topic, right? So we had the topic, the Navy's presentation. They were the only thing on the agenda. And then outside of the regular minutes and all that stuff, they were the only presentation on the agenda. And then there was public comment on the agenda item. She wanted to present at that time. I'm assuming because whatever she wanted to present, she needed to be able to show the public what she was talking about.
Okay, that's exactly what I was trying to find out. I thank you. Now it's very clear to me. I appreciate your time on that. That's all the questions I have.
Member LaHood?
Yes, thanks for being here. So why did you review the slides ahead of time? I guess my question is, why did you review the content of the slides ahead of time if they were meant to be part of public comment?
So because she was asking to use our equipment, right? And so, for example, if someone says, hey, I want to present something, and they want to have a visual aid to our meeting, for all we know, they could be putting up pornography, right? I hate to be that extreme, but that could be the case. right? And so we didn't take a hard look at it. We just said, okay, and during, to answer the question, the previous question, it was during public comment on the agenda item. So that particular section, the things need to be relevant to that agenda item. We have another section of the meeting that is public comment on non-agenda items, where people can say whatever they want to say. So when we saw that it was simply, okay, it's nothing inappropriate, nothing that we can get sued over, nothing, no pornography, no whatever, fine. It's relevant to what the agenda is about, yes, absolutely, you can present this information.
So
that answer your
here's,
question?
I guess the thing that I'm a little bit confused about is that these are images. It was not the text of a presentation. And I understand reviewing slides ahead of time for something objectionable, as you know, your example, if it was pornography, I don't think we would be having this question. But you judged the content of what she was going to say based on the images there. It seems to me that you don't actually know what she was going to say about those images. And a picture of a business license, who knows what she was going to say about it?
So I want to be very clear. Her original request, we did not do a hard review. They weren't images. They were simply they were informational. There were stats, there was numbers. I can't, I'm looking at it right now, whatever. But they were actually so I didn't know what she was going to say, yet we still approved it, right? We didn't know what she was going to say. But when she submitted the biomonitoring information along with her California state business license and another
it's a medical license from the medical board, and I didn't present that to you. I added, that was part of the email.
Hold on. I'm asking the respondent a question, and she was just answering.
So the way we read the email and interpreted the email from the additional slides that she said she was going to also include and gave us then the order in which we should put the slides in, we in our office looked at it, and she mentions the license in another email, and we said, one, this looks like it could, because we don't know what she's going to say. We don't know if she's going to expose anyone's biomonitoring, like their actual medical reports. Two, this appears to us, I have no idea that the biomonitoring is a nonprofit or any of that. It appears to us that she is trying to solicit business, be it private, nonprofit, whatever. And so at this time, we left it open. At this time, we're going to say no to this part. Your original request is approved. And again, I'm going to say for the record, we kept no one from making public comment. If Dr. Hemsa showed up to the meeting, she could have made her public comment. It would be a different case if we had told her, no, you cannot come. Or that if we tried to actually stop her once she was at the meeting trying to make those public comments. We didn't do that. She decided not to show up.
Okay, thank you. You've more than answered my question. Thank you.
Can
Go ahead.
I please statement?
I follow-up questions are the, unless I'm
Go ahead.
unless, okay.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Are you saying that if she had come in at the time of general public comment, she could have shown her slides?
She was granted permission to show her original slide. Even when we told her that those additional 2 or 3 slides that she added, that we weren't gonna use our equipment to do that, we still told her you're welcome to present your information.
But not the slides that you rejected. She wouldn't be able to put those on in general public comment, right?
Because no.
I think you said that. No.
We couldn't use our we couldn't use our equipment to do that.
Okay.
But we had a conversation, whatever, we didn't keep her from making public comment. She didn't show up to a meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, quick question for Dr. Sumchai. This idea that you presented a potential slide that contained your business license, did that occur? Is that true?
No, it is the Medical Board of California licensing of the clinic as a screening clinic, and it is embedded in the email. The other thing I must clarify is that I was adding the biomonitoring slide because the Navy presentation on parcel F included biomonitoring information. She is incorrect. My information was added after I read the Navy document. And the other thing is
But
that
why did you want them to put up a slide? No, you answered my question. Why did you want them to put up a slide of your business license? What's the purpose of that?
That isn't the issue. I'm
No,
saying
no, please, no. That's my question though. Is why did you want to put your business license on one of these slides?
Wait, it is the Medical Board of California
Yeah, the medical
license
board.
for a medical clinic, and it was
Your
not,
clinic.
I wasn't requesting that. That is simply embedded in the email.
So there was no
image
slide. There was no slide with your medical license that you submitted and asked to be put up.
There was not.
No
That
slide.
was not the issue. And the protected health information had been cleansed
Yeah,
from,
that I understand. I just
she
wanted to
admitted
know
that in the
if
past.
there was any
Now she
slide that
changed
had your
her
business
story.
license on it. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I have one. Ms. Vincent, can you explain that your organization, you have some organization that runs or manages the CAC, is that correct, or did I hear that incorrectly?
I'm sorry, I didn't make out what you said. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, you mentioned in your introduction that there's some organization that you're with or some company that runs or manages the CAC. Did I hear
Correct.
that incorrect?
Yes, that's correct.
And what's the name of that organization or that company?
So we are contractors. We are under MJF and Associates. We have a contract with the OCII, Office of Infrastructure and Investment, for former redevelopment agency. So we're independent contractors, and
Okay,
the
so you're
prime contractor is MJF and Associates.
MJF, Frank?
MJF and Associates, yes.
Okay.
Funded by the developer.
Okay, please, Sunshine. Reactions are not helpful. And what is your role with the company and with regards to, and your role with the CAC?
So I am the office manager. What our office does two primary things. One is we give access to the shipyard. The shipyard is under development. It is a formal Navy shipyard, and so there's restricted access on the base. And so there are passes that we make that says these people have authorization to be here for various purposes, right? So that's one part of our job. The second and the most important part of our job is that the Citizens Advisory Committee board is a volunteer board. So what we do is their admin. And what I do as an office manager is manage the day-to-day operations, but more direct with the CAC board is I facilitate the meeting. Well, the chair facilitates the meeting, but I run the minutes. I put out the notices. All presentations, presenters, whatever, come through me. I set the agendas along with the chair. So that's what I do. I basically put out create the information to be sent out to the public.
Okay, so let me ask: Are you also a member of the CAC?
No, I'm not.
I'm looking at an agenda that says Doris Vincent. Is that
that
you?
That is my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
That's a relation to you. Okay, great. And another question, you mentioned at the beginning that you're a passive meeting body. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And who notified you of that?
So, under the Sunshine Ordinance, we are considered a passive acting body. I don't have the regulations in front of me. It was started by Mayor Jordan in 1993. We don't look at any policy. We don't hear policy. We don't advise on any policy. We don't recommend any policy. That's not what the CAC does. And your board actually made the first claim that Dr. Himsa brought to us, made the determination that we were a passive active body.
The Sunshine Task Force did?
Yeah.
And what year was that?
That was, what was the first complaint in 2019? The very first complaint that Dr. Himsa submitted against us. I don't have the date. I'm sorry. I don't have the date in front of me.
Okay, so
the case was dismissed, and they found that they didn't have jurisdiction. They found that we were a passive active body, and they dismissed the case, to my knowledge. Micah presided over that one, but that's, yeah.
Okay, because I was just reviewing that, and it actually got created in 2013. It was an ordinance presented by Supervisors Cohen and Campos. It was approved by the Board of Supervisors and signed by the mayor.
I'm sorry, what was created in 2013?
The ordinance creating the Bayview Hunters Point Citizens Advisory Committee.
No, so that's a mistake. There is the Bayview Hunters Point Citizens Advisory, and there is the Hunters Point Shipyard Citizens Advisory Committee. We are the Hunters Point Shipyard Advisory Committee. That was started in 1993 by Mayor Jordan.
Okay, my apologies on that. Okay, any other questions, clarifications? Okay. Yes, Vice Chair Yankee.
Oh, sorry, that was me accidentally clicking that.
Oh, okay. Very good. Okay. Are we ready for rebuttals? Okay, let's do it. Ms. Vincent, you go first. You have 3 minutes for any rebuttals. Please wait for Ms. Leger.
Ms. Vincent, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
So I guess I've said pretty much everything I wanted to say. Dr. Himsa, when she first submitted a claim against us to the Sunshine Task Force, to present day, it's still a welcome to the Hunters Point Shipyard Citizens Advisory Committee. No one has personally tried to keep her from presenting any information. She has presented in the past as it relates to this matter. Public comment, because we're a passive active body, it's held at the chair's discretion. She allowed for public comment. There was much public comment at that January meeting. If Dr. Himsa would have come to the meeting, he could have presented her information. We went off our own interpretation of her presenting her the state's acknowledgement of the clinic, which is a license to me. And the fact that and meetings prior that she has come during public comment with biomonitoring kits, talking about the business that she is affiliated with. And we said, while we allowed her to do that then, and we'll allow her to do that in the future, we would not allow for her to do that using our equipment, as well as not knowing what she was going to say and could possibly release anybody's medical information. So I think she would have a case if she came to the meeting and we tried to stop her. She's very familiar with our process. She has made public comment to our committee multiple times, and multiple times at one single meeting. And so no one tried to keep her, no one barred her, and we did not deny her access to making a public comment. That's it. And we submitted information to the clerk with additional information on this case.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Sumchai, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal. Please wait for Ms. Leger. Thank you.
Dr. Sunshine, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
On July 19th, 2019, I submitted a complaint, file number 19077, and that complaint had two major issues. One, that the meeting that is being referenced was conducted without a quorum, and I have offered you documentation that the meeting was conducted without a quorum. And at the time that the matter went before the full board in September, the videotape that I documented had not been included. The second issue was that despite all of the meetings that Ms. Vincent has told you about that I've attended off and on for 20 years, I did not receive a notice for this meeting either as a stakeholder with multiple reasons to be there and as the Health and Environmental Science editor of the SF Bayview. The SF Bayview was not noticed about this meeting, and there were about 7 people in public comment who documented that they were not invited to the meeting, and I have given you evidence of a videotape and an email thread in which the keynote speaker, Dr. John Balms, admits that Mayor London Breed told him not to speak to me, and that the 4 scientists of this committee were asked by the mayor to meet in private, and that these represent state meeting law violations. So for the second time on January the 27th, I was denied an opportunity to speak and to present relevant slides during the public comment period. You have the email thread. Initially, Micah Fobbs approved my slides, and then he came back and he said, well, actually it was Ms. Benson. I thought it was him, but she said that they would not allow me to present slides on biomonitoring. So I did not show up to the meeting because this was the second time that this group had insulted me professionally and denied me the opportunity to participate in a matter that I was clearly a stakeholder in. Ms. Vincent is also incorrect in stating that there were potential HIPAA violations, and she is also incorrect in stating that the information that I was presenting wasn't relevant to the Navy's presentation. It was directly relevant.
Time is up.
The shipyard CAC has violated sunshine laws. It has violated my constitutional right to freedom of speech, and it violated my right as a newspaper editor for the only community newspaper in this community to speak. And I think it's very, very clear cut to me. But I also want to point out that there are faming comments that have been made about the work that I'm doing as a medical doctor in an underserved a community with a clinic located within 6 blocks of a federal Superfund site. I resent
please wrap it up.
first that this is a business enterprise like the work that she's doing, which is a business enterprise funded by the developer.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sumchai. Thank you. Okay, members, the matter is with us now for deliberation and action. There's no discussion or deliberation. Is there a motion?
All right, I'll start the discussion. I was curious, so I did look at page, I think it was 713. I believe it was the respondent who gave that as the page where the slide that was disallowed. And I'm noticing on it that this seems to be some type of patient's lab test results. My concern on this would be that there's the patient's full date of birth, their gender, and their medical record number, which is very clear on that. And I'm not sure under Prop B, which protects privacy rights, that city equipment should be used to give that type of personal information out. That seems to be rather protected. And if that were me, I certainly wouldn't want my date of birth, medical record number, and lab results being broadcast using city equipment. So if that's the slide that was disallowed, I would agree that slide should be disallowed.
I was under the, I'm sorry, go ahead, Member LaHood, and then I'll respond.
No, please go ahead first. It sounds like you had a.
I just wanted to say, I'm not sure that's what Prop B was referring to. Prop B was about the sharing of information by contractors from the city of information that beyond the scope of their contract. So if they were allowed to collect name, address, and telephone number, and they collected additionally, a picture or some other information, the only information that they could share would be name, address, and telephone number. Otherwise, they'd be in violation of Prop B. Now, I understand the point at this point, whether it's we're talking about the use of a company's equipment, but that equipment is being used for the purposes of the government body. So, it's really within the realm of the government body at this point. Doesn't matter where they got the equipment from. It's their use during the time of a public meeting. So whether it's appropriate or not is another point. I agree. It is a little disturbing to me that if the MRN number was also redacted, then and the order number was redacted, probably wouldn't have as much of a problem with this. So I do find it to be somewhat, kind of, it shouldn't have been revealed like that without at least the permission of the person whose record this is. Member LaHood, go ahead.
Actually, I'm curious now. Is it possible to ask another question, or do we know whether permission was given?
You can, yes.
Dr. Samchai, can you tell us, was permission given by
consent and release of information, and the medical record number is the number for the lab. It is not the patient's private medical record. It is a number that is generated by the lab, but all of the screenings that are conducted are conducted with a full consent and a release signed to me and to the Hunters Point biomonitoring program.
Thank you. So that medical record number then does not connect with any other medical record. So the only identifiable information are the gender and birth date.
Yes. So that is the lab assigned number.
Thank you.
And further, what about the order number? Can that be traced to any particular person?
No, that is simply the, the number that's assigned for the specimen as it comes in.
Okay, thank you. Member Schmidt.
Yeah, well, that would have been interesting if the medical record number was the patient's number, but if it's not, I mean, the birth date, maybe, I don't know. Although I'm also, more of a question that I have that I can't quite, I don't know which side of this we fall on, but if it's not a policy body, and it may not be a policy body, then we can't use, was it 67.15 or 18? And I can't, looking at the policy body standards, does anyone have any thoughts on that one, on this?
Well, if I think we did deliberate. I don't recall it, but I believe we did deliberate on this, that it was a passive meeting body. I'm not able to like quickly find any information regarding that, but I'm also not able to find any reference to the CAC in city code, in the administrative code or what have you. There's all kinds of information around the Hunters Point shipyard, and there are other CACs that I mistakenly brought out also that was based upon that. I haven't looked through the Legistar search either. I don't want to take up too much more time here. But if this was deemed as a passive meeting body, as was reported, then you have to look at 67.4 to start as to what governs the conduct of a passive meeting body.
Yeah,
there's no.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm kind of on the fence on this thing. I don't know what, I don't know if I were to try to say, hey, let's do this, I can't think of what I'd do here.
I don't think trumps my right to freedom of speech and press. I don't think whether it's a policy body.
It makes a difference because the ordinance, first of all, passive meeting bodies are a unique entity only to San Francisco. And under the Sunshine Ordinance, a passive meeting body is not required to provide public comment. It may, but it's not required.
Well, if they do it for everybody else and they deny me, then it becomes a discrimination.
I agree. If that's a different question. If they did allow public comment and then deny you, yes, then we definitely is definitely within our ability to adjudicate that. Let's go to Vice Chair Yankee.
I just wanted to, I found the initial meeting minutes where this was discussed. We never did decide whether or not it was a passive meeting body or if it wasn't, but I noticed it said at the bottom, this was the December 4th, 2019 meeting minutes. The last paragraph of it says, Chair B. Wolf requested that the SOTF Deputy City Attorney provide advice on the status of the advisory board of Hunters Point Committee for future reference in determining conclusions for other similar types of bodies. So I don't know if we ever received communication from legal counsel on this, but I know you did request it, thinking that this issue might come up again. So maybe our legal counsel could speak to it. I'm not aware of any subsequent communication.
At your last committee meeting, you decided that you would look into whether this was a passive or a policy body. This acts as a policy body.
Yeah, but how they act and what they are two different things. I mean, we've had advisory committees act we've had subcommittees that acted like advisory committees, but they were really policy bodies, and they didn't know it. Okay, and vice versa. So it really it's hard to put a scenario together just because they're operating as if. The question becomes if their bylaws specify that they are operating in a certain way, then they're operating that way. If they violate their bylaws, that's one thing. That's actually not in our jurisdiction with regards to how their bylaws. Our jurisdiction is if they're a passive meeting body, they get to do this. If they want to do more than what is required at their minimum for a passive meeting body, then they're free to do that. But if they're truly a policy body and they're acting like a passive meeting body, then that's a different that becomes a different issue. Member Schmidt, do you have something else?
No.
Okay. All right, and that I don't know if we actually got a response that I
and it is something the city attorney's office could very.
Yeah, it would have to go back to where the advisory committee got created in history. And I'm sorry, Ms. Vincent, when can you provide that history?
We sent our bylaws and all our information of our creation to the clerk's office, and we spoke on this last time. But it was created in 1993 by Mayor Jordan.
Joe Jordan, right? Okay, I recall you mentioning that earlier. I'm sorry, I didn't recall that. Thank you. All right, anybody else? Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I'll offer the motion.
Okay. Member Schmidt.
I move that we find a single violation of 67.15D. Abridging / prohibiting public criticism of a policy body.
Well, if it's not a policy body, then that can't apply.
I know. That's implied is that the ruling would be that it's a policy body.
But we're not a policy body. We don't make any policy. That's not. You can't change what we are to fit your needs.
Ms. Vincent, as I explained before, sometimes there's confusion as to what is and what is not a policy body, and despite what activity they do. One example would be the Building Code Review Committee thinks that it's an advisory committee, but it's not. It's a policy body. So it had changed its entire bylaws. because it was created by the Planning Commission. Absolutely a policy body. But
we weren't planned. We weren't organized by the supervisors. We weren't organized by any commission. We don't hear policy.
But if you were created by the mayor and it was done by ordinance, then you would be a policy body.
What does a policy body do? Where's the confusion?
I'm not going to argue with them about what.
No, I'm not arguing. I really want to know. I'm just curious.
Okay.
I don't understand it. It's not an argument. I'm asking a legit question. What is it that a policy body does?
I'll answer the question, but by a matter of process, we're right in the middle of an action, and it's a little inappropriate to.
Right, but you guys let Dr. Hempster interrupt over and over again without saying anything. That's not fair.
No, I did. I had asked many times not to interrupt, but I am going to just declare right now I've asked. We have a motion on the floor that cannot be interrupted. So let me get a second. And if there's a second to the motion, or if there's not a second, and the motion dies, then I'll answer your question. Is there a second to this motion? Going once? Going twice?
I'll second it because I think we need to move forward with this.
Okay, so moved by Member Schmidt, second by Member LaHood. Now, I'll answer your question. A policy body, the determination of policy body is very clear. It's not a matter of what activity they do, but it's how it got created, and including who they report to. And 67.3 is very explicit in bullet point fashion about each different kind of body and how they get created, okay? And so, there's a difference. If any group meets to discuss or advise the mayor or any department head on fiscal, economic, or policy issues, that's a passive meeting body. So if the Urban Institute, which is not created by government at all, but they're just a group or an organization out there, meets to discuss and advise the mayor, that meeting is a passive meeting body, okay? A policy body, on the other hand, could be one out of 6 types. One type could be any board, commission, committee, or other body created by an ordinance or resolution of the Board of Supervisors. Or another type of policy body could be any advisory board, commission, committee, or body created by the initiative of a policy body. Okay, so there's many different kinds, but there is a difference between the two as to what they are. Again, under a passive meeting body, could be an advisory committee created by an initiative of a member of a policy body, the mayor or department head. So that's why I'm asking, how did it get created? Because that then determines whether it's a passive meeting body or a policy body. Now, we're going back to 1993. There weren't electronic documents. Everything was done on paper. And so it's not necessarily online to be able to find that. I've done, this discussion and this hearing's been going on, I've been trying to search around the city codes, every single city code. I can't find a reference for Shipyard Community Advisory Committee, unless it's buried somewhere, but it's not showing up in any search. And I've looked through the Legistar search, but that only goes back to 1998. So that's for electronic documents. Before that, it's going to be in hard copy and some binder probably in the clerk's office. So I think that's why we had asked our legal counsel to look at that. Members of the task force, if you feel
that, but the 2 examples you gave, we aren't any of those. And I guarantee you, if you go down to the other 4, we aren't any of those either. it's
So you
mind-boggling how you can try to make us a task force. You can't make. A policy active body. That's not what we are. It was created by a single act of a mayor, an ordinance to make us a passive active body.
Right, and we're
That's
asking
mind-blowing.
for evidence of that.
So if you can't,
Chair Wolf,
like you said,
point of order.
it was all
Point of
written
order.
out.
Need to
So
move on
access
because
to the attorney. You can't make a determination without getting that information. You can't just arbitrarily make us something that we're not. That's not
I did
fair.
not arbitrarily make anything. I'm asking for evidence in order so that we can make a determination. All right, so that is not necessarily on the table at the moment. Right now, we have a motion on the floor that was moved by Member Schmidt, second that's a motion on the floor. No judgment. It's up to deliberation and a vote, and public comment and then a vote.
Are we moving to
Members?
public comment now, Chair Wolf?
Hold on, members, or any deliberation? Vice Chair Yankee.
Yes. Not being able to find, and I've looked as well, any reference to this in code makes me believe that it was not an ordinance or something, enacted by the Board of Supervisors. There's been testimony that it was done by initiative of the mayor. There doesn't seem to be any real evidence that it's either a policy body or a passive meeting body. If what the respondent says is true, that would make it a passive meeting body. I haven't seen any evidence that it's a policy body. I would feel uncomfortable voting as if it were without seeing such evidence. And on top of that, I'm not sure that this was a case of the complainant not being able to criticize the body. It sounded like she wanted to put up certain slides. And again, looking at the slide that was referred to us, I think that there's certainly a level of personal information, medical information in there that would make me feel uncomfortable. And it wasn't particularly clear that this was some type of releasable or consented type of thing. So I don't feel comfortable personally voting for this motion.
Not to be like, not really on that point, but I just want to point out implicit in my motion is the idea that we don't really have any party here who has a burden of producing evidence. And it's certainly not Dr. Sumchai's burden to produce evidence to prove the nature of what this entity is. And so we're here to figure out which way do we go. And so that's not a big, heavy burden. It's somewhere in the realm of, say, 5149. So that's part of why I feel okay with this motion still. But I'm ready for vote it up, vote it down, whatever it goes.
Okay,
I
anybody
believe
else?
I have constitutional right to freedom of speech in the United States of America, independent of the box that you put a government
Dr.
organization.
Sunshine, please. It's an interruption. I'm not taking any more interruptions because we've got a lot of other business to do. We just need to move on through this and get to the end. Let's call public comment. Pass it on to Ms. Leger. *6 will unmute yourself. This is for public comment for everyone other than the parties.
Public comment on the motion. Do we have any public commenters?
David Pilpel.
Do we have other public commenters? Mr. Pilpel, it looks like you're the only public commenter.
I apologize for that.
Are you ready to speak?
I think so. Parts of me are still awake. Okay, David Pilpel. This is on item 11 on a particular motion. So I've been listening to the last 20 minutes. I tuned in again. I believe I heard part of the discussion when this was in committee based on the last representation that I heard from, I guess, the respondents representative and some of the discussion you just had. It's not anywhere in city code. I did find the website hpscac.net under About Us. There are the bylaws, there's the roster, there's the history. I am pretty well convinced that this was created by Mayor Jordan in 1993, that in as much as it advises the mayor and others on policy, that it is a passive meeting body and thus subject only to section 67.4 as relevant here, 67.4A. 3, such gatherings of a business nature need not provide opportunities for comment by members of the public, although the person presiding may, in his or her discretion, entertain such questions or comments from spectators as may be relevant to the business of the gathering, period. I don't believe that this body is a policy body. It sounds like it is a passive meeting body. 67.15 does not apply. And like it or not, the person presiding in his or her discretion can entertain questions or comments and or not. And it seems like, however unfair and unreasonable it may or may not have been, that there's probably no violation of the nature alleged. I'm happy to explain further if anyone cares, but I'd like to hear a little bit on subsequent items before I totally fall over here. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, public comment is closed. Any last thoughts, members?
I withdraw my motion and substitute a motion which, instead of relying on 67.15, it refers to 67.4, and it does find a violation in that when you do allow people to speak, you can't, in any governmental entity, when they do allow people to speak, they can't select based on the viewpoint of speakers. And I think that's what happened here. So that's my substituted motion. That would not require that it be demonstrated to be a policy body.
Okay, so is there a second?
This is Member LaHood. I'll jump in. I like this one better. I'll second the motion.
Okay, so the motion is moved by Member Schmidt, second by Member LaHood, to find a violation of 67.4 for what was your words on that? For select, being selective on
violating oh boy, geez.
When you do allow people to speak, they can't be selected based on the viewpoint of the speakers.
Yeah.
Said.
It's not a 67.15 violation, but I'm going to say it's a 67.4 violation by not allowing her presentation in choosing to disallow her based on the substance of the presentation.
Okay. All right. Again, public comment. Oh, Member Wong, sorry, before public comment.
Member Schmidt, sorry, just could you clarify which subsection of 67.4?
I am going to say it is the, it actually, I'm trying to find it. Mr. Pelpel just read it to us.
A. 67.4A.
A3,
Yeah.
David Pilpel.
Yeah, A3. That A3 was not exercised in a neutral manner, and that's a violation of the proper exercise of A3. That's
There you
my
go. I like that wording better. Okay, public comment.
David Pilpel again.
Hang on. You ready, David?
I think so.
Go ahead.
Not my finest hour. All right. Again, due respect to Member Schmidt, I appreciate it, but 67.4A3, second portion, although the person presiding may, in his or her discretion, entertain such comments or questions from spectators as may be relevant to the business of the gathering. In my opinion, I think that allows pretty total discretion to the person presiding to decide what is relevant to the business of the gathering and entertain such questions or comments as he or she decides. It doesn't say subject to appeal to the body. It doesn't say or suggest that it's subject to an equal time rule or that viewpoint discrimination is allowed or not allowed. It reads, in my view, pretty clearly that it's the presiding person's discretion. If the complainant here wants to bring a legal action and allege some other legal basis, which may or may not be the case, that's fine, and I'm not arguing one way or the other there. I just think that it would be difficult for this task force to find a violation of 67.4A3. I think it gives a lot of discretion in that language, arguably all discretion to the person presiding over a passive meeting body as defined. Whether we like it or not, I just don't think you can read more into that about the conduct in general or the conduct at issue here.
The administrator.
I'll just leave it at that.
Acting officer is not clear made the decision. The administrator made the decision.
Well, okay, well, even if that's the case, it's ultimately the members of the body that had an opportunity to say, no, that's not how we want to do it. Or if the administrator is running the thing and with the consent of the members, then that's how they're doing it. I haven't read through all the details of the bylaws. It's too late, and I'm too invested in other things. Look, I have nothing against the complainant here. I have no vested interest in this. I just want to get to other items. I would urge a no vote on the motion before you. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. Are we ready for a vote? Okay, please call roll.
Just a second. Member Schmidt,
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member LaHood.
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Member Forsley, not present. Member Neighbors?
Nay.
No. Member Neighbors, no. Member Highland? Member Highland?
No.
Member Highland, no. Member Stein?
Nay.
Member Stein, no. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Vice Chair Yankee?
No.
Vice Chair Yankee, no. Chair Wolf?
No.
Chair Wolf, oh, the motion failed.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest. We already have a request of the city of our legal counsel at city attorney's office to provide some insight as to what the nature of this body is. I'm going to reinstitute. Sorry about that. I'm going to reinstitute a request on that, and if it's significant to me, I will send it to a committee for a second set of eyes, and see what the committee, if they want to make a recommendation. I'll leave this this complaint open until then. If it's found to be a passive meeting body, then we can decide whether to close. Whatever the outcome is, we can decide whether to close it or to continue to take action. So basically, we're continuing this item to call the chair.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that. So it'll be a motion. I move to continue this item at the call of the chair, pending the results of a research by our legal counsel at the city attorney's office, and upon review of myself and by a committee of my choosing, and based upon the recommendations of that, we'll bring it back to a task force hearing sometime in the future, and take the issue up there. With regards specifically to the points that the motions that were being made by Member Schmidt and seconded by Member LaHood. That sound okay? All right, great. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Schmidt. Any discussion? Okay, public comment. Okay, hearing no public comment, is public comments closed? Are we ready for a vote? Any objections? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Just a second. Chair Wolf?
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member Forsley, not present. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member LaHood?
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Vice Chair Yankee?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Moved by Chair Wolf, seconded by Member Schmidt to continue matter to the call of the chair, pending the results of research by our deputy city attorneys and upon review by Chair Wolf and a committee of his choice, and the recommendation to return to the task force hearing in a future date and take up the issue there. With regard to the points that the motions that were made by Member Schmidt and seconded by Member LaHood. This motion, okay, seconded by Member LaHood, that's it.
Right. Motion is approved. Okay. Thank you for bearing with us, parties. Appreciate your diligence and your thoughtfulness. Have a good evening. Please call next item.
Item number 13, State Bills AB 339, AB 703, SB 16, and AB 361. Report from the City Attorney's Office.
Okay. I don't know if DCA Castillo is still here.
I'm still here.
Oh, marvelous.
Hi.
Appreciate it. Okay, you're up.
Okay. Well, you asked for legal opinions, but given the fact that some of these items have only just passed or been signed into law by the governor, we don't yet have those. I'll start with AB 361, which was discussed earlier under 1A, agenda item 1A. Similar to AB 361, AB 339, that has not been signed into law by the governor yet, but it's very similar, and it provides for public boards to provide, it requires that the public boards provide virtual access for public events, even if all board and council members attend in person. So that's what that legislation is about. Is this, you want me to go over the various legislations to just give a little background? You've already had the legislation, so I don't know if that's a waste of your time.
Yeah, so there are a number of items here. You have 339, 703, SB 16, AB3, and 361, which we already spoke about.
Right.
So is there anything to, have you reviewed 703 and SB 16?
Well, 703 is still in committee. It has not been approved or signed into law. And
Okay.
SB 16 was just signed by the governor into law. So that, I believe it doesn't go into effect immediately, but AB 339, 703, and SB 16 we're monitoring it, and to the extent that they just went into law, and it impacts the entire city, not just the Sunshine Task Force. I believe the city attorney will be preparing some sort of a legal memo or advice on these, but I'm happy to go over, just the summary of what some of these legislations entail. If you'd like, but given the late hour, I don't know if that's necessary since you've all had the legislation, but I'll do what you want.
I think with regards to any of these, if they affect on how we make decisions about how city meeting bodies are operating, based on, any new compliance issues that we are currently not aware of, we'll need some, continued guidance if and when those issues come up in complaints.
Right.
Kind of in the same way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, kind of in the way that we're dealing with the public records disclosure that got put upon police departments.
Right. So I was going to say, similar to what occurred after AB 361 was passed and went into law, our office will provide a similar memo that impacts the entire city. And to the extent that it is a policy issue, because it's not just one city department or board, it's the entire city, we will do that. So that's what we'll wait for.
Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Let's hold off. Let's see if there's any discussion or comments from the task force members, but I know that member of the public, Pilpel, has been anxiously waiting to speak on this. And then if there's any questions or clarifications that come up, we'll call on you again. DCA Castillo, thank you.
Sure. Can I add one more thing before
Sure.
you go on? SB 16, which has to do with the records requests that go to the police department and to that seek records specific to police officers. That that has many subparts to it. So in other words, it will amend provisions of the Evidence Code 1045, Penal Code sections 832.5, 832.7, 832.12, and add another Penal Code section 832.13. So there will be several different prongs to that legislation. So that's the one that I can think of that will impact what's required to be produced under the Public Records Act.
Very good. Appreciate that.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you. Members, any comments, any discussion? Otherwise, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Okay, let's do that. Let's open up for public comment. Hands off to you, Cheryl.
What?
So we're going to open it for public comment. Please get the clock ready.
Well, just a second. Clock is ready. Do we have public commenters?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Pilpel.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to, yeah. I'm here. Yes, yes. All
Are you
set?
ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So David Pilpel, I think the 7-page memo from the city attorney on dated September 28th that's primarily about AB 361 and updating prior advice is very helpful. I would encourage you all to read that carefully and probably more than once. Bottom line is I would encourage you, not necessarily tonight because it's late and I don't feel like drafting something and I'm sure we want to get out of this like, you know, maybe today rather than tomorrow. At your next meeting or maybe at a committee, I'd encourage you to draft advice that you can then approve and circulate to all city departments, agencies, boards and commissions about how to conduct meetings in particular under AB 361. It certainly provides some basic requirements, but I think you could elaborate, for example, on the provision, and I'll have to find where it is in the law, that requires specific instructions for how to access meetings. It's in the middle of page 5 on the memo. So it's not just listing a phone number or a web address, but I think it needs to be very clear that whether it's *6 to mute or unmute, *3 or 10 to raise your hand, that also lowers your hand, that you may or may not be told how many people are in the queue ahead of you. Something like this meeting tonight is more like a party line and has, you know, the whole thing about muting. Just a whole section that's not just read by the clerk at the beginning of the meeting or at each public comment opportunity, but to sort of manage expectations. I had to call in tonight several times just to see where you were. When you're not on video, it's not at all clear what agenda item you're on. It might be worth suggesting that policy bodies meeting that way. The policy bodies meeting on video. Can I have a few more seconds or a minute? You don't have to even enforce equal time rules anymore. Can I? Thank you. The policy bodies meeting on video might use some indication as to what agenda item they're on. The Planning Commission used to have a little flip chart where you could see that they were on agenda item 16. So if they're on video, you can at least see what item they're on, whether or not they're on SFGov TV, which covers that with captions. If they're just on the phone, that at least every half hour at the top and the bottom of the hour that somebody say, hey, if anyone just tuned in, we are on item 8. We're in the middle of blah, blah, blah. We have or haven't taken public comment. Just so you know, we're on item 8. Something like that. And most important for me is that where the public was used to going to a specific place, whether it's the library or the office of the agency to review documents, agendas, or meeting materials under 67.9 or 67.23, or correspondence, staff reports, whatever, that all of that material needs to be posted on the web. If it's available in advance, then in advance. If it's available an hour before the meeting, then an hour before the meeting. If it needs to be redacted, then it needs to be redacted. If it's being sent to members of the policy body and they have access to it by email, then it should be posted and available to the public. And that should be the practice going forward. And if whatever that takes, and I'm happy to explain that further if you need it. But the point is, I would encourage you to gather your thoughts on how to conduct these meetings going forward and advise city agencies, boards, commissions, and departments on how you think that should be done. And whether or not they do it, you can't compel them, but at least you're providing guidance for how they should do things going forward in the brave new world, because I think we're going to be at this for a while, maybe forever, I don't know. And there are some things that are working well and other things that ought to be fixed, and you should be the folks, leading, asking for more light and less darkness here. It's fundamentally unfair, in my view, for members of policy bodies to have access to material that's otherwise subject to disclosure, that members of the public don't have equal access to online during the meeting, so that they can follow along and make informed, meaningful public comment. Whether I agree with that comment or not, doesn't matter. It's not discriminating on viewpoint here. It's just that everybody should have access to the same information. It's not okay to say, oh, well, if you really want that settlement agreement, or if you want to look through public correspondence, you still have to go down to City Hall or 1 South Van Ness or, some office to flip through stuff. Nobody's there and everyone's in masks and whatever, but we're not going to go through the trouble of redacting it, uploading it, and making it available. And if we get a late staff presentation, the Board of Soups will absolutely put it up on Legistar, but other boards and commissions, they won't. If they don't have to, they're not going to do it, and that's a big problem. All right, I think I've said enough. I'm happy to take questions or, whatever you need from me on this.
Okay, so, and I just want to say that this is on the agenda because of former member of the task force and now public member David Topel, providing a little extra latitude for him to, and because of the lateness of the night. Okay.
And again, I apologize for that, but thank you.
No apology. I want to suggest though, if you, in your astuteness here, just want to provide some bullet points for us to highlight in a communication, we'll make sure we'll write it on this end, and be sure to include those, because we may not catch all of them.
Okay, I'm happy to put some thought into that. I promise I won't do it tonight, but I will do it in the next couple of days and get something to Cheryl. Happy to
Okay,
help.
thank you.
Terrific. I'll get it to Bruce.
Any other public comment? Last call for public comment. Okay, hearing none. Members, there's no real action to take at this time. We'll patiently await the city attorney's analysis and report on that. And if there's no objection, we'll move to the next item. Please call the next item.
Moment. Item number 14, review of draft complaint form. I just want to say that this complaint form was submitted by Victor probably in May. It was his first draft. He did another draft, and I submitted that to the Mayor's Office on Disability to make sure that not only it would be clear to members of the disability public, but also after our IT people looked at this form for ease of doing whatever people need to, there is a submit button, or not a submit, but a next button at the bottom of the page. I don't think it came out very well when I was trying to get this copied, so that easy progression with the form can happen. Mayor's Office on Disability signed off on it. They said it's great, and it meets their requirements.
Okay. So this is before us for a final approval?
Yep.
Okay. Members, any thoughts, suggestions?
Yeah, I have some thoughts and some questions about this form, and I have like it's in a little bit of detail only because I've been thinking about how to get better submissions for our files and how to make our just everything about the process really try to hone in for people who are submitting cases to put together the strongest cases possible. And so I've just been looking at the documents that we put out. And so there were a couple things I wanted to mention about this one. One is, and I don't know if we need to do this for some reason, but the personal information notice appears twice in this document. It appears in the introductory page, and then it appears again on the form page. And I don't know if we need to have it twice. And then, the form asks about the sunshine ordinance sections that you believe are violated. And some of our other forms, just for consistency, talk about sunshine brown or the CPRA sections that might be violated. And so I think we might be limiting it too much to just say sunshine here. And then on page P1430, it's just a typo. It says alleged violation when it should read, please describe the alleged with a D at the end violation. Yes. Yeah. And then I also think that the opening page has like some unnecessary information that doesn't really add too much for the complainant's understanding of things. And I would try to make it more concise. And I don't know if we want to go this far in the rethinking of it, but I'm kind of putting together my own like recommendations. And I feel like we should suggest shortening the introduction to the form, making it more to the point, that we could probably eliminate the first 4 paragraphs because they don't give like especially clear or relevant information, only very, very general information that people probably already know. And I would just
page? What page are you referring to?
Sorry, I have to.
Because I'm looking at 1424. Is that the page you're referring to?
I was saying 1430. Do I have that wrong? P1430.
So 1430, isn't that the optional? That's the optional worksheet.
Wait. So this is item 14, right? So I'm going back to this. Yeah, that's wrong. Okay, so I guess I'm talking about 1424, I think. Yeah, 1424. Sorry.
Okay.
So page 1424, I would just cut those first three, from thank you to section B, I would probably just cut that because I don't think it adds that much to the rest of what we have to say. And I would just start the first paragraph with a brief statement about the role of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, and a brief statement of what the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force does, where it can be found, and where it can be found. I have exact wording if you want to hear it. And this is just based on, I was already going through this. And then the second paragraph, I think, should refer people to sections A and B in the complaint procedures and process before filing, so they can see how the process works and learn how to best present a complaint. I think this information about resolving complaints informally is already on the webpage where they start to, where the portal about how to file a complaint with the task force. And it's also again stated in section A and B of the procedures, which is linked on that main portal page. So I have like what I would put on that first page. It's sort of the same information, just condensed and made more relevant, so people aren't, having to kind of go through stuff they don't really need and that's not as direct as it could be. So those were my comments on it.
Well, are you asking for those edits to be made, or going to take action on it?
I would love for those edits to be made, and I can read you the exact wording if you want to know what I would put in.
No, why don't you submit the exact wording?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
But how are we supposed to know what to approve if we don't see it or hear it?
So you want me to read it? It's not that long. If I find it.
All right, read it, but then send it to me.
Yeah, obviously I can do both. Okay, so what I would say, and again, it's a lot, I'm not really cutting any relevant information, I'm just trying to be more concise. So I would keep, the heading at the top of the page that gives our address and phone number, fax number. I'd keep that link to sfgov.sunshine. But then I would just say, first paragraph, the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force was created to protect the public's interest in open government as specified in Chapter 67 of the San Francisco Administrative Code. The Sunshine Ordinance authorizes the task force to consider alleged violations of public records and meeting laws enacted by agents or agencies of the City and County of San Francisco. Then I would have the second paragraph. If you believe the City or County of San Francisco has failed to comply with the Sunshine Ordinance, the California Public Records Act, or the Ralph M. Brown Public Meetings Act, you may file a complaint using the form below. Review the complaint process or the complaint procedures, sections A and B, for more information on how to effectively file your complaint. You can email this form to sotif@sfgov.org, fax it to 415-554-5163, or deliver it in person to the administrator of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, City Hall, room 244, to the end of the address. And then just in the body, please note, while you can make complaints anonymously, the complaints themselves are public documents subject to disclosure under public records laws. So just trying to condense that information a bit and just take out the stuff that wasn't as relevant.
I think that when you said a violation by the City and County of San Francisco, I would suggest including the word violation by a city agency or department of the City and County, because
If you believe a city or county agency or department of San Francisco?
No. Please understand that the California Public Records Act is about and for agencies. The Sunshine Ordinance directs it to custodians, actual people. That's what makes it the strongest in the country, is because it's directing it to those. So that's where you begin. You begin in reference to the Sunshine Ordinance with custodians as people, and it then expands to an agency, because if you were to provide enforcement, how do you provide enforcement to an agency? There's not much you can do, but you can provide enforcement to people.
If you believe a custodian of the city or county of San Francisco has failed to comply,
Custodian records, quote unquote.
Yes. Well, that's what I was trying to get at.
okay.
I mean, I think by saying the city and county of San Francisco, it can leave people wondering, well, where do I go? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, this is just an introductory page, and they go straight to the form, which tells them how to. Well, I mean, this is a complaint, right? They've already made a submission, but
right. The other point I make is you make a reference to for people to engage the complaint procedure. That means you have to make that very available. It has to be very noticeable on how they access that.
Yeah.
Because right now it's buried on the website.
Right now, the website has. I would actually make it. I mean, because I'm going to make a recommendation for this too. It's not that buried. There's 1 or 2 paragraphs at the top of our main portal, and they're pretty short. And right under that, the first thing is the complaint procedure. Then comes this complaint form. Then comes the online form that you can submit. So they will have already seen it, probably even to click through to this form. The only difference is if they're being handed this form in person. If you go to the main web, I mean, it becomes a bit more complicated, but it's right there on our main web portal, how to file a complaint.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
Hold on 1 second, and I will find it.
I don't see it on our homepage.
They're filing a complaint.
File a complaint.
File a
Okay.
complaint under Sunshine.
Okay. Right. So, okay, the complaint procedures are there. So what you're saying is that
I'm saying most likely they're going to download this form, right? After going to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, filing a complaint with the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. There's a very brief paragraph at the top of that. Then the next thing is a link to the complaint procedures, then a link to this form that we have in front of us, then a link to submitting the complaint directly online. And this form isn't, I mean, it needs a little bit more consistency with the online form. And so that's part of what I was trying to do. The online form, by the way, has no introduction to it. So this at least gives you a little more information on that page.
I will tell you that sometimes people don't know that they can submit the form online and they just print it out and they fill it out by hand. I mean, Mr. Malloy was a perfect example of somebody who did that.
Right. And so we might want to put a paragraph or 2 at the top of that online submitted form too, because if they're just going to print that out and then, fill it out and turn it in, they're going to miss the same information they would get if they went to the PDF of the complaint form.
Okay. All right. So here's, okay. I understand what you want to do. I think what we're, the filing of the complaint page needs some reorganization anyway. So I get that point. I think what we're needing to do here is really more into the substance, because that's where most of the changes were made, is into the actual form fields, which form fields were added. Those are the biggest changes that we made to this. So while I get the opening narrative, could be wordsmith better, the question is if it's going to change drastically, that means this is going to have to come back to the task force, and we really don't have a whole lot of time for that. I think what I would suggest is leaving it as is, and then we can work on your edits and then update it a little more at our leisure. Because whether this is verbose or not, it provides essentially the intent is the same.
Sure. I would still maybe want to fix the typo. If you don't want to touch the rest of it now, I would also still maybe want to say Sunshine Ordinance Brown and CPRA violations listed there.
Yes, I think that's an appropriate.
And I still think the personal information notice doesn't really need to appear twice. But
yeah. Yes, I agree with that. I think it should just be left at the top, and it could be removed from the bottom, or the bottom of the form, or that opening form. Okay. Anything else?
Not from me.
Okay, members, anything else on the form? Can we now approve this form? Get a motion on the floor. Are you awake?
I'll move to approve the form with the edits suggested by Member Stein. This is
Okay.
Vice Yankee.
This is
I'll
Member
second
LaHood
it.
will second the motion.
Yeah, okay. Member LaHood will second it. I would just suggest that there be a little review of the edits that Member Stein wants to make, but I'm okay with that. Okay. Any other discussion, comments? Okay. Public comment on the form.
David Pilpel.
You ready, David?
I am.
Go ahead.
Okay. I appreciate Member Stein's suggestions. I think those are good. I did see some areas that were redundant here, and I recall historically that there was some stuff on the website about how to file a complaint. Then there were the complaint procedures. Then there was the how-to. That there were a lot of different documents, some of which said the same thing and some of which said slightly different things. So yes, the extent to which you can boil this down to just a form that doesn't repeat too much that's elsewhere, I think is to the good, and perhaps just refers people elsewhere for other background stuff. Somewhere in here, actually on the first page, in the personal info notice, it uses the word complainant. That ought to get fixed. That hurts me. The form itself, I don't have any particular issue with. I do think it may be useful to be very clear that this form is optional and that capturing the same information in some other way is sufficient as well. The subsequent pages, I think there's basic information that you're looking for that makes sense regardless of the nature of the complaint. At some point, though, I think it should sort of bifurcate and say if you are making a complaint about records, here are the relevant questions, the commonly asked stuff that's towards the end about records. If this is about meetings, it's a whole different set of questions, and I'm not sure that I saw the questions related to meetings. There is some overlap, like what department, what contact person, what date, but the other things are sort of totally different if it's a meeting related thing as opposed to a record related thing. And I would try to make that as clear as possible. If you want to adopt this tonight, this morning, whatever, and then go back and look at it again, that's fine. If you want to put this off and do one more pass and get it right, that's okay too. I don't have a strong view one way or the other, but I do appreciate that Member Stein and hopefully all of you are giving a look at this, and to the extent that it aids the public in, then that's good. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Last call, public comment. Hearing none, public comment is closed. Okay, any other thoughts on this? I think the last speaker brought up a good point about the not much area for the Open Meetings Brown Act stuff. Member Neighbors.
I'm wondering if it would be possible to, I mean, I know that there's an urge to approve this, but it is such an integral public-facing document, and it's after midnight, and I know that we're not all thinking as clearly as we might be, and as this document deserves us to be. if we're going to approve it, I would ask that we add the word temporarily into the motion. And I would prefer actually that we continue it and revisit it and maybe place it, either do a special meeting or place it earlier in our agenda so that we can give it the attention it deserves. I know we've also talked about or had some correspondence about revising what our expectations are of respondents as well. And it would be nice to coordinate the two documents so that they work well together. But I know that none of us have the bandwidth to go through that right now. So that's my comment.
Well, if we do that, then I'm going to request that everybody please review it and prepare, we do some work and be prepared in ample time before the meeting. So we're not, reviewing it during the meeting, that we're coming prepared like Member Stein did. Because I think we've been working on this for some time. It's been introduced, I think, at least once. And we really need to get it up. There's folks who complain about it all the time. So we need to get something. It doesn't matter whether it's temporary or not. We could always revise it. It's a growing, living document. So I think it'll be at least to get something going. I'm a little concerned that there isn't a section around public meetings in there. It's all about records requests. So,
Chair Wolf, I would just suggest that it might not be that we weren't prepared. It might just be that it's very, very late.
Yeah.
I know it's something we've all been talking about and thinking about, and I had ideas, and yet I can imagine that most folks are hesitant to dig into the deep details at this point, given that it's after midnight.
That's fine. May be helpful is if you do have additional edits or thoughts about this, send them into Cheryl. Send them into the office. We'll comb over them, and then if we have to contact you or ask you for an explanation, we can do that too. Because I don't think anything would be so substantive that it would divert from what's currently on the page here. So we've been at this for some time. Okay, so what's the pleasure? Continue? Or to approve and then continue to update?
Member Highland here. I think accept proposed changes, but continue the item to the call of the chair.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I'll rescind my motion so that Member Highland can make the new motion.
Okay.
Matthew, that was a second?
No, I said Member Highland can't make a motion while I still had a motion on the floor, so I will rescind my motion.
As will I.
So what's the motion? Is there a motion? All right, look, I'll just do it. I'll move to continue this item to the call of the chair. All members, if you have updates or adjustments or edits that you want to make, please email them in to Cheryl, and Matt and I will review that. And if there's anything substantive, we'll hold those off to the next meeting on those substantive points. We will include a section around public meetings for sure.
Can I just say, I just want to say one thing about it, which is that I know, you can see this attempt to condense the language as being somewhat cosmetic, but I think it's also an issue of how accessible we are. If people come to our site and it sounds kind of legalistic and has wording that's not that easy to comprehend for the average person, I feel like it's a disincentive to access and use the law. And I'm not saying it's a huge problem or anything, but I do think it matters. And so, at least in the work that I've been doing, I've been trying to go through and see how much can we simplify, get to the point more quickly, keep the information that we need, not be too repetitive, make sure it's consistent despite whatever, manner people want to access the law, and try to be a bit more of a, available and accessible body.
Mhm. Okay. Right, so I made a motion to continue the item. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay. So moved by the chair, second by Member Stein. Any discussion? Public comment? Okay. Let's go for a vote. Is there any objection to a vote? Okay, please call roll.
Chair Wolf,
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Member Stein,
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Parsley, not present. Member Neighbors,
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Highland,
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Wong,
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan,
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member Schmidt,
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member LaHood,
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Vice Chair Yankee,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Moved by Chair Wolf, seconded by Member Stein to continue the item to the call of the chair.
Okay, before we move on, we have one last action item, but I want to ask Cheryl, in your report, are there any actual action items?
No. Everything that I have provided is purely information, including several public comments from anonymous.
Okay, so what I'm going to suggest, we have one, this system-wide advisory. We need to take action on that. And then we can adjourn after that, if you so desire. Okay, please call the next item.
Item number 15, Chair's Report. Bullet point, System-wide Sunshine Task Force Advisory, Timeliness of Response, which is draft. Bullet point 2, Reporting of deaths due to COVID-19 in San Francisco in relation to file number 18024.
Okay.
This,
So
should I read
let's take,
the rest of it? This complaint deals with the request for death counts in San Francisco from the Department of Public Health. Recent publication and data collection on deaths due to COVID-19 appear puts into question Department of Public Health practices on monitoring deaths in San Francisco. And there are two links to information.
okay. So we're just going to take the first bullet, which is the actual action item. Starts on page 1439. And while I just want you to note that when I drafted this, I used two different fonts. So the sans serif font is narrative, and the serif font is quotes from the code. Just to delineate. I could probably make it a little more pronounced, but the really more interested in just the content and whether enough, whether it's covered all the points that we've discussed and we're concerned about.
Can I ask something else about it?
Absolutely.
Would you consider putting like an executive summary on the first page that just gives bullet points of the common problem areas, and then, kind of references like a section to look at for more details about that?
Actually, the way I was thinking about this is really somewhat of a build-up, because the way that we just heard it tonight. We heard a respondent trying to get 2 bites of the apple from 6721, where they wanted to, and we didn't pick it up as a violation, but they basically invoked a 10-day response and then tried to expand that to an additional 14-day. And as I was writing this, I was thinking exactly what you were saying. But after a while, it was like they really need kind of some background on what the Sunshine Task Force is and how this gets applied. Because frankly, most custodians aren't required to take the training. So, they are basically trained by the department head or various managers that are required to take the training. So if they're left to their own devices, here this will go out to every department and then be distributed by the department to all the staff that would be considered custodians. So I don't know. That's my thought. That's the way I put it forward and conceptualized it. If you think it needs to be written in a different format, I'm open for it, and we can all vote on it.
I mean, I'm not suggesting changing. I'm just suggesting adding something at the beginning that bullet points out the main points that you want to make sure they know. Like, these are the number of days, and then gives them, see section 67.1 or see whatever it is. I just feel like if you think they're going to read the first page and not read the rest, then maybe they just wouldn't read the rest anyway. And at least if they could, the ideal is they read the first page and they read the rest. And so they get a preview of what the main things are they need to remember. Then they get to see why it's that way. And then if they need to reference back what the way it is, they can look at that first page again.
Well, I would. Okay. I mean, my concern is that they'll read just that first page and then go away. They'll not read anything else.
My concern is they won't read any of it if there's not an easy.
If they don't read it and they violate don't comply with the ordinance, they're going to be. It's not like we didn't tell them. We didn't provide them, an advisory.
Well, we still provided it to them. We just provided it with a summary. That's all I'm going to say. But I just, someone who reads a lot of long documents, I very much appreciate, having that overview. And I feel like that helps people remember. They need to reference back, and it helps them actually preview and then understand what they're reading better too.
Okay. I have member Neighbors and then member Highland.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not even, member Son, you say you feel like. I think it's not even what you feel like. I think it's evidence-based, right? We know that decision making, there's a reason we have executive summaries, because executives don't read the whole doc. And that's why we try to crystallize information at the beginning that is at least the minimum, the big picture, and then the minimum big takeaways that we want them to know. I think it could be really useful, because I think they're not going to read it. I think we hear, in the cases that we hear, we're constantly kind of having to do the basics with folks, with the respondents who come in. So we can assume they're not going to dig in. And it is just something to add, right? Like a call out box. It just gives them, even if it's half a page, gives them what the main topics and where the main points are. Just, I think that would be really useful and strengthen it further.
Member Highland?
I agree with Lori and Laura. And given that this is a draft, and it's very rough in my eyes, there's no objective statement here too. I would read the first few lines, I would go to, and then I would just switch off. I think you need to come right out and say at the beginning, just a reminder to custodians and department heads, you have 10 days. You don't get to automatically invoke extensions. Notwithstanding what the pandemic laws by Mayor Breed put in, you still have to answer these requests. Just to refresh, please see below for a reminder on SOTF. And then, rather than listing 4 pages of details, if you could put the section 61, maybe the first sentence or 2, and then a hyperlink to the rest of it, and then the next one, and a hyperlink, the next one, a hyperlink. Get it all on 1 page, honestly. And that's going to take more time because you have to really condense it down. But I think that kind of approach hits them right, front and center, and saying, you are in violation if you're not doing this. You want to catch their attention and word it as strong as you can. That's what I would recommend.
Is there any?
This is very academic. This is very academic, and it's going to lose most people. With all this listing sections one after another.
Member Lood.
Yeah, I'm so tired. I agree with everyone else said. Also, I think a catchy subject line will make sure that people pay attention.
Yeah. Can I just throw in, I would frame it, and maybe this is in the subject line or in the first couple sentences, something like, common misconceptions or misreadings of the Sunshine Ordinance, or common things people get wrong about the Sunshine Ordinance, or something that really frames it for them.
Does anybody have any comments on the substance?
Substance is good.
It's awesome.
Do you think I covered all the bases?
Yeah, especially the whole 10-day thing. Nobody understands that, and I think it's really it's good.
Okay. All right. I what I'm looking for is approval really of the substance, not of the format. I appreciate the input on the format. You can work on that offline. And I having executive summary or some short opening statement. I hear don't put the full quotes in. That's good suggestion and all that. I deal with the formatting and the wordsmithing later. I'm more concerned about the substance. That's why I spent the time on. Because we had a lot of public comment around this. There's a lot of kind of acrimony from respondents. This is all generated by complainants. So I want to make sure I've covered all the bases here. So that's what I'm asking for support on. Otherwise, I'll continue it and delay it another month.
Chair Wolf, this is Helen Castillo, City Attorney's Office. Before you move to entertaining any sort of a motion, I just wanted to state, since on page 1442 you do reference that the inaccuracies may be coming from superiors or city attorney, I just want to note for the record that since you acknowledge it, the information that you're providing does contradict and goes against the advice that the city attorney has previously provided on this issue. I understand, because you've stated previously that you disagree, but I do want to state that it is in contradiction to advice provided by the city attorney's office on this particular issue.
I understand that, but by the same token, the city attorney has refused to allow the task force for 20 years to assist in providing that advice.
I believe, well, if you're talking about the training, we are, I thought that while I was away, you and Mark had talked about the task force providing, working with the office on the next training or training material. But as to specific time frame, that's what I'm referencing. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Yeah, okay.
But I
that's fine.
understand your position.
Yeah, I know, and that's why that's you're fine if you feel that that is objectionable to be in this advisory, and that we should remove. Then my cat's on my keyboard.
I don't think that that's what I'm stating. What I'm stating is just pointing out that when the city attorney issues policy memos pertaining to issues that impact the entire department, all the city departments, they are speaking with one voice. There is one city attorney. And then there are issues where, like in this capacity, we advise various commissions and task forces. And there are ethical laws, and where there are issues that pertain to specific boards and commissions, we advise on those matters. But when you speak about the city attorney, there is one city attorney. So I just wanted to point that out.
Is there another term or phrase that you would suggest be used?
No, because I think if I understand your communication, it is to correct or contradict advice that has been provided to all the city departments and different executive, boards and commissions. So since this is the first I've seen it, it's something that, I'd like to look at and think about and discuss with Mark. But I just wanted to make that point because I didn't know if you were moving to approve it and disseminate immediately.
Okay. Do you feel strongly that you folks should want to review it a little deeper before dissemination?
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Then we'll continue it.
Okay.
All right. Any other comment? I see still two hands up. Member Stein, Member Highland.
Sorry, I need to take that down.
Okay. Member Highland.
Yeah, I'm taking it down.
Okay. So a move to continue this at a call of the chair.
Second, Member Highland.
Moved by the chair, second by Member Highland. Public comment?
David Pilpel.
Go for it.
Sorry.
Hang on. Member Highland was the second.
Yes.
Thank you. David, are you ready?
I guess. Yeah. Yes, I am.
Go for it.
Okay. And for the minutes, just something like David Pilpel offered his thoughts on the subject topic is fine. Doesn't need to be more detailed. It seems to me in my first read of this that it seems like lecturing. It seems too long. Not all of the information here is relevant under COVID because some of the sections have been suspended. In general, at a very high level, it's not clear to me what the point is of this communication. I would ask you to consider, does this enhance the credibility and position of the task force vis-a-vis the department heads that you're suggesting sending it to? Would they more likely consider this task force a partner in promoting compliance with the law, or more of an adversary or a pain as relates to their work? So in general, how do you think this will be received? Who will actually read it? Will it be the department heads? Will it be their secretary? Will it get bucked down to the public records person who may or may not already be happy with you? I would seriously reconsider what you're trying to convey in this document and whether this strikes the right balance of saying something useful that they don't already know, reinforcing things that they know or do or should do, or it just reminds them what they don't like about the law and what they don't like about this body. So I'm not saying it's the wrong thing. I'm saying I would think about it very carefully, particularly if you're continuing it, as to the tone and content and what the point is. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, ready for a vote? All right, and before I do that, I just want to say I'm really more interested in whether the substance and the points that that I made in here are all the points and all the bases have been covered. Okay, I'm happy to reorganize it, rewrite it, different tone, all of that, but all of that is meaningless if the substance of it isn't hitting the exact points that that we have been hearing from members of the public and what we're experiencing ourselves. Member Neighbors?
I just want to point out that goes both ways. That if it's the whole form and substance are the same thing, the substance of what you're saying, as we tweak it or whatever, it's there, but it's not. I have to agree with our public commenter that there's the audience analysis, the tone, all of those pieces are part of the substance. The format is part of the substance. In terms of how we treat the readers as partners, and as opposed to folks that we're lecturing. So I just urged a kind of it's not organic to separate those things, and I hope that we can think of them as deeply wedded moving forward.
Okay.
Bruce, member Highland here.
I've obviously got to reformat, rewrite this in a different way, in a different context, because I don't think you're really understanding what I'm asking. That's okay.
Chair Wolf?
Yeah, go ahead. Member Highland, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I were you, I would delegate this to the writers in the group. We have several very professional writers here. Let them do it. You can always put your name on it and send it out from you, but I think this is something better handled by those members. That's just my.
I know, but that is not the crux of the issue. The issue here that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if the writers aren't hitting the points that we need to hit, and it's just about how it's formatted and how its presentation, okay, then it's still not complete.
You can still have a discussion with them as they write it, as they draft it. But,
no, that's a discussion for the full task force. That's what I'm asking all of us to vote on, is whether the points have been covered. And if they haven't been fully covered, then please contribute to what it is that is missing.
I have to say, I feel like I do understand what you're asking.
Okay.
My problem is I joined the task force fairly recently. I'm not even sure where these points are coming from. I'm not sure because you're just giving, you're giving sections of the ordinance. So I'm not sure like what it's most important for you to get across in presenting each of those sections always. And I just wasn't there for these discussions of what's getting misconstrued most often. So it's hard for me to know if you're hitting all the points. It would be great, to have like a rationale of why you're addressing each of them. That might help. But so I don't know. That's why I'm having difficulty. But I do understand that you want to know, am I telling them the information that they're not understanding, that they're not interpreting right, all of that. But I haven't been around long enough to know, are these the main things that people are complaining about? Is there something that's missing? I don't know.
Okay. We had a meeting around this over the summer, and we had a lot of public comment on it. And that's what I'm drawing from. That's what's the impetus for doing this. So it's not so much what was happening historically, it was the input that was being brought forward by some of us and most of it from members of the public. And so that's what I was drawing from. And their interest in having this go out because of the repetition of the same violations over and over and over again that they have to, and that creates our backlog. So this was a way to try to head it off at the pass. Right. So what I'll do instead is I will start again. I will just put out some bullet points of the areas that need to be covered. Okay, so that maybe it's easier for us to see what those are, and then somebody else can write it.
And Bruce, just to finish, if I was to pick the most, I mean, I've written to you about this through stuff I've done for EOT, and I'm aware of, we've been having this conversation, but if I was to drill down, it would be 6721B, and you could put out a communication solely about that, which would hit the nail right on the head, I think. It'd be much shorter. That's the middle of page 1442. I think that's the biggest malpractice out there by bodies. That's really what we're talking about: the 10 days, the 14 days extension, etc. If we did nothing but that, people would remember that. Like, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. There it is. By adding everything else, and that's just my personal. But anyway, I'll close there.
I get that. I appreciate that contribution. I'm just saying, I'm also trying to respect the people who give us our work, the folks that file the complaints. I'm trying to, I think the idea is to try and include everything around timeliness with regards to 6721. And however concise or expansive it is, and respect their concerns for, and they think that we should be doing this on everything, because there should be no complaints. That everything should run, 100% pristine, perfect, which obviously is not a reality, but they want us to engage the city more with these kinds of system-wide advisories, because there's no way we're going to go around doing trainings. So so I'll do that. I mean, I'll put this off again. I'll break it down into bullet points of the message, and then folks who want to step up to write the narrative and to organize it more cogently, that's fine. I didn't mean for this to go out in the way it was formatted. I provided what I felt were the key points and the evidence in the law to back it up, so people wouldn't say we're talking we're pulling stuff out of thin air. That's all. So, motion is on the floor to continue.
We're ready for a vote, you said.
Yes, we're ready for a vote.
Okay. Chair Wolf.
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Member Highland.
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Forsley, not present. Member Neighbors.
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wong.
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan.
Aye.
Padmanabhan, aye. Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member LaHood?
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Vice Chair Yankee?
Aye.
Moved by Chair Wolf, seconded by Member Highland to continue the matter to the call of the chair.
Okay, thank you. The second bullet, you can read that on your own. If you have any questions, you can email me about it. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment.
I'm sorry
bad.
too.
My bad. Sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
we're all falling apart. It's okay. I'll keep it brief. David Pilpel. So my comment was on the administrator's report. Cheryl and Victor are doing a fine job, assuming portions of them are still awake and alive here. But my continuing concern is the continuing backlog, and what I see is the increasing number of incoming complaints compared to the disposition of complaints by this task force. And I've commented on this several times before. I don't have the right solution. It's way late and hard to, articulate at this point. But somehow, once again, last month was 147. This month's number is 166. It looked to me like you only had 7 items on the agenda tonight to dispose of. I don't see, even with the Project Catalytic or whatever other schemes you've got in mind, it seems like the number of incoming complaints continues to far exceed the task force's current capacity to dispose of them. And somehow you've got to have a fundamental meeting of the minds about how you're going to balance that. Otherwise, you're never going to get caught up, and you're never going to get ahead of this, and you're never going to have the capacity to deal with other policy issues, and you're just going to continue to drown in complaints, whether they are with or without merit, good, bad, or otherwise. It's just overwhelming the system. And I strongly encourage you to find one or more ways to deal with that. But it's unfair to members of the public that may have a complaint, legitimate or otherwise. It's unfair to city staff to sit around for hours and hours waiting for these hearings. It's unfair to those of us who care about policy issues. It's unfair to Victor and Cheryl. It's unfair to all of you and the time that you're devoting to this. So something, it just seems to me, is fundamentally broken here, and I would encourage you to talk about it and find ways to deal with it. I don't have the answer. We don't have to talk about it tonight. You can just sit with that. Thanks for listening. I'm done. Thanks.
Oh, excuse me.
Flash. Any other public comment?
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay. Public comment is closed. Please make sure, Cheryl, that public comment was included for this motion. Now, motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn. This is Vice Chair Yankee.
I'll second it. Member Stein.
Moved by Vice Chair Yankee, second by Member Stein. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. 12:45.
Top of the morning to everybody.
Thank you all. Good night.
Aye.